All right, folks. So after we start the recording process um, during praise and worship, we are going to be getting a file from Pastor for the notes for the current service. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that file and we're going to do a few things with it. The first thing we're going to do with it is create a file that we actually use on uh, our main visual computer in order to display the notes on the screens. And I'm doing a separate video for that. I'm going to show you that later. But what I want to show you in this particular video is a process of creating podcast tags for our podcasts um, uh, as they are produced and they are spread out over the internet through different services like iTunes, SoundCloud, a brand new service that came out this year called Wooshka, TuneIn, all these different media outlets that allow us to broadcast our message to a pretty wide audience. But the process of getting found on each of these platforms comes back to our ability to be found through tagging. So I'm going to demonstrate how we go through and actually create the tags and the searchable content like titles and summaries, all that good stuff in just a moment here. So let's go ahead and jump into it. What we need to do is actually get into the Dropbox folder here. So we'll double click on the Dropbox shortcut and we're going to go into the uncut sermons folder and we're going to go into podcast tags. All right, from there you're going to see the tag template and we'll open that up. Now, I have this one already pre-filled because I've used it already. But there's a couple of basic things that we are going to need to include in every podcast that we upload online. One of them is the title. The second thing is your summary. Okay. And then there's two types of tags that we actually use in order to get found on a lot of these platforms. One is called a mandatory tag, and these tags are going to be the tags that get put on every podcast, regardless of which one it is. And then we also have specific tags, which are tags that speak directly to the content of that particular podcast. So what you're going to find in these tags is that they're actually just little short snippets, short phrases of things that are mentioned during the actual sermon or Bible study that people may be searching for on one of these platforms. Okay, so let's scroll back up top and let's take a look at the title. Now, the title will always be in this format here, where it is the day's date. Okay, so let's say we were filling in today's date, for instance. Today is the 3rd of October, so we'll be 11-3, 16 a.m., and then we're going to put tutorial test, and then just make sure there's no space at the end here. Okay, so that's basically it. We're going to take whatever the title is for that particular sermon or Bible study, and we're going to put that here, but we're going to place it inside this format where we have the date and the actual sermon title. Okay, so this will be searchable across the web. As well as the web pages that we actually upload this to, whether it be on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, any of the major social media outlets um, that we get these sermons uploaded onto. This will all be searchable because of what's in the title, also because of what's in the summary, and also because of the tags that we have here. So it's very important that we put in all the pertinent information that people will be searching for in order to find this stuff out there on the web. Okay, so back to this in this summary for this, we're basically going to get and I give an idea of what this particular sermon or Bible study is about. Now, usually when we get the sermon notes from Pastor right before he comes out, we'll take a quick scan through it and just see which verses that he has, see if there are any additional notes or any additional bullet points, and then try and get a basic idea of what the sermon is going to be about so that we can create this. If for whatever reason we can't, we'll be listening during the service to actually figure out what that overarching theme is going to be. And usually during the service, Pastor might say something like, he might say something like, if you don't get anything but this, and then he'll go into stating what that overarching theme is. It just so happened that for this particular message, that message was, or that theme was that we need to be looking beyond the differences in each other and actually trying to love each other, which is what I basically put down in here. Okay, so once we have that summary, once we figure out what that is going to be for that particular message, we'll put that in here because we're going to need this information later on when we go back and we upload the podcast online. All right, so then the next thing we need to take a look at is the actual tags themselves that will be searchable in each of these platforms. The two major ones that we publish to are called SoundCloud and Whooshkaa. From there, other services like iTunes and TuneIn, they pick up our podcast after it's been produced on these two major platforms. Okay, so these are the ones that we're going to focus on because everything else is just going to mirror what's on these two platforms. All right, so we're going to scroll down a little bit. I'm going to show you the difference between the SoundCloud tags that we capture and the Whooshkaa tags that we capture. So the basic difference between the two is that when SoundCloud takes our tags, SoundCloud takes the tags using just the actual phrases themselves and no other sort of punctuation. But with Whooshkaa, we actually do need to have the commas and then let's say I hit the enter key here or the return key, and then I put in another tag here. I would have to include a comma if I can get my keyboard to act right. And that would be why it's not acting right. Come on. So at any rate, basically we need to make sure that there is a comma on the end of each of our particular tags. There we go. On the end of each of our tags so that when we go ahead and copy and paste these things into each particular platform like SoundCloud or Whooshkaa, that they're going to format correctly. So for SoundCloud, the only thing that we actually need is the phrases themselves, and then that phrase has to be followed by a space. So there's a single space here before it'll switch to the next line here. If you see as I'm moving the cursor across, you'll see that there's an extra space and then it drops. Okay, so on Whooshkaa it's a little bit different. On Whooshkaa, you're going to see that there's an extra, there's just a comma, and then it drops to the next line, comma, next line. Okay, so what we have to do is make sure that that formatting is correct for each, because if we don't, then it's not going to copy and paste directly over. And we want to try to make this as seamless as we possibly can. So just make sure that you just remember that the commas go for Whooshkaa and the spaces go for SoundCloud. And then while the sermon's going on, we're actually listening for these tags. Okay, we're listening for these phrases that we can put in there that people may be searching for or that people may find of interest. Okay, and then as we do that, usually what I'll do is, let's say, let's say I'm just working on the SoundCloud ones. I'll make sure I get all of the tags for the sermon, and then I'll just take this, I'll copy and paste this down into the Whooshka area for the specific tags, and then just add the commas back afterwards. Okay, so it makes it fairly simple. All right, and once we have that, we have everything that we need uh, for for the actual data portion of the podcast that's going to be searchable online. All right, so let me show you guys how to save this. We're going to go, instead of just saving here, okay, because we're using the template, we're going to do File and then Save As. Okay, and then we're just going to do whatever today's date is, 11-3, and I already did one today already, uh, so it's 11-3, and then we'll go ahead and click Save. It's not going to ask you to replace it if it's a new one, so we'll just click yes there. That's fine. And that's the basic process of how you create this file. Just remember that this file is very important to us because we do want to make sure that we are making an effort to get this spread to as wide an audience as we possibly can. And we can't do that unless it is searchable somehow on the internet. All right, so that's the basic process. If you guys have any questions, absolutely let me know, and I will see you on the next video.